Most drummers, including myself, have worked so hard at building their limb independence. And while that is extremely important and absolutely necessary, it's also important for us to work on our limb dependence. And that can often mean the difference between you sounding more modern or you sounding more traditional. In this lesson, I'm going to break down the difference between the two, traditional versus modern comping for drums. This lesson where I'm going to break down traditional versus modern comping for drums, I'm going to compare and contrast the two. And first, I want to start with traditional, the traditional approach to comping in a jazz context. So as you can hear, my ride cymbal isn't really changing, right? At least that's the goal. Maybe it is changing, I just don't know it. But the idea is that no matter what I play in my left hand and my right foot for my comping, it doesn't affect or take away from the groove that I'm hopefully establishing in my ride cymbal. This is traditional, more of a traditional approach to comping in jazz. Kind of cemented by the wonderful an important drummer, Kenny Clark. So if you can't do this, you have no business trying anything else. This is where you have to start, at different tempos. You got to be able to make it feel good at different tempos, without changing the ride cymbal, because this skill of being able to not have your ride cymbal affected by your comping, it's a skill, it's an independent skill that is kind of, it crosses styles. It's not just usable in jazz. It's any style, anything you play on the drum set involves some kind of independence. So you want to spend a lot of time working on that. I've made some videos. I think my most recent one was independence. I talk about, building and working on your independence using the Syncopation book by Ted Reed. So I spent a lot of time working out of that book, and it just kind of frees you up so that you're not, you don't have to worry about what you're playing in the ride cymbal and it being changed by what you're comping. So again, I'm just going to play a little bit more in that style. And it doesn't, it also doesn't mean that you can't change your ride cymbal. So I'll do it two times. I'll do it one way where I'm not changing my ride cymbal, then I'll do it another way where I am changing my ride cymbal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm changing it. See how I'm changing it a little bit more? So this kind of will lead us into more of a modern approach. And I say modern, we'll get into exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this lesson. If you're enjoying it, go ahead and let me know by smashing that like button and leave some comments. I love hearing from you, and I try to respond to as many comments as possible. Also, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, why not? A lot of drummers have found my lessons really helpful, and I'm confident you will too. So please consider subscribing. All right, back to the lesson. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly talk about some of the things that I associate with more of a traditional approach to comping that will differ from the modern approach to comping that we'll get into later. So one is something I've already talked about, limb independence, which is something you have to work on. You got to spend time working on your limb independence in different ways. Check out a lesson I did. I'll put the link there on independence. I think it was my last lesson on independence, where I break down how I work on and apply independence to the Ted Reed syncopation book. That's a great way to work on your independence. Another thing I associate with with more of a traditional approach to comping is, when you're playing the ride cymbal beat, when you're playing time and you're not changing it, it creates a groove. It creates more of a clear and super easy to follow and hear and notice groove on the ride cymbal that's consistent. So I think of it as more of a groovy approach. Not saying that you can't groove when you're playing modern, but this is a very direct way of establishing a groove. Another thing that I associate with more of a traditional approach to comping is you are moderately interactive. You can moderately interact with musicians. What I mean by that is you are free to some degree in your left hand and your right foot, right? And even your hi-hat, you can hear Blakey playing things with his hi-hat. That's more interactive than just keeping 2 and 4. So what I mean is, even if I'm playing the ride cymbal here and I'm not changing it, if I hear rhythms in the band, be-doo boom boom boom, I can, and I'm not changing the ride cymbal. So I'm interacting with the musicians and with the music freely, but I'm still keeping that beat and keeping that groove in the ride cymbal. So that's another thing I associate with more of a traditional approach to comping. Another thing I associate with more of a traditional approach to comping is the language. The notes and the rhythms are not random, and I think that is often a misconception about comping, is that it's just chatter, it's just random chatter, just random rhythms. It's not. It's a language. You'll hear the same language, some of the same phrases and some of the same rhythms with all the master drummers. Art Blakey or Art Taylor or Mel Lewis or Kenny Clark. You'll hear a lot of the same rhythms and phrases. So that's how you know, oh, this is a language. It's not just random chatter, as some people call it, or random rhythms. You got to study the comping language. Not all rhythms swing. Remember that. Not all rhythms swing. So I can go. I hope you didn't like that. I hope you didn't like it too much, because I was purposely trying not to play rhythms that felt good, that were idiomatically kind of related to jazz and associated to jazz. I was purposely playing things that just didn't really propel the time or the feel. Now I'm gonna try to play rhythms that are more idiomatic to the style, and feel good, make the time kind of move forward, so to speak. So 1, 2, 3. Right? And some of the rhythms, a lot of times it's about being simple, keeping your ideas simple. A little triplet action. Right? And sometimes when you sing your comping notes, or you sing your rhythms, it engages you with what you're playing a lot more. You're more invested in it. and you think about it more rather than just playing randomly and not really knowing what you're playing. When you sing it, you're going to really mean it. Hey, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. I don't know. I may have done a lesson on that before. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some things I associate to more of a modern approach to comping. And the first thing is, I've already kind of mentioned it, but limb dependence as opposed to limb independence. So what the heck do I mean by that? Well, limb dependence is just kind of the skill that allows your limbs to kind of talk to each other. And I'll just demonstrate that really quick. So first I'll start traditional, and then you'll see how my hands are starting to interact more and talk, so to speak, with one another. Here we go. So my ride is not changing, right? Okay, now I'm going to start to interact, have my hands interact with each other. See? And this is that's a really simple way and good place to start on working on your dependence in your limb dependence between your right hand and your left hand. Just whenever you play a note in your left hand, double it in your right hand. Okay? So, and in between, you're playing time. You can either just play quarter notes or you can play your ride cymbal beat. So again, I'll do it slower. And you can even, like Elvin Jones would actually accent that note sometimes, often actually. You see how it's starting to sound a little more open-ended, but it still has a good feeling, hopefully. Okay? So that's a very good place to start to work on your limb dependence. And you can do the same thing with the bass drum. If you combine them, and with that Elvin accent, we haven't even added the Elvin triplets, but that's another lesson for another day. Okay, so that kind of leads us into more of an implied approach to grooving, which is, again, this is more of a modern approach to playing time, where you're not keeping the same thing, you're not repeating the same thing. You're trying to open up a little bit more, opening it up, but still trying to retain the feeling of swing, that traditional swing feeling, right? So it's similar to what I was just doing, but I want to show you at a different tempo that I can get the same feeling, but I can open it up at the same time. So more of a traditional approach. Now it's going to open up. And I'm adding some accents, right? Some crashes. Right? So you can hear I'm starting to, not only am I kind of opening up the rhythm of what I'm doing in the ride cymbal, I'm also opening up how I play the cymbal. Suddenly I'm starting to use it as a large crash, so to speak. And I'm using what we call a cymbal shank, right? Where I'm shanking the cymbal right here to get those notes to kind of pop or to sound accented. But it's not a full-on crash. If I full-on crash the cymbal, then I lose control and I can't continue with my ride beat. So that's another thing that kind of adds more dimensions to the modern sound, right? And that coupled with what I'm playing in my bass drum and snare drum really opens up a lot of things. You can actually take your hand off of the cymbal. Take your hand off the cymbal. You can get away with doing that because suddenly now we're being more interactive, and if that's what the music calls for, then great. As long as you don't lose that sense of pulse. So I'll demonstrate that. So that kind of leads us to this last point that differentiates the more traditional approach to comping to the more modern approach to comping, which is it's a little bit or a lot of bit more rhythmically adventurous, right? When you think about some of the modern drummers, I should define that also, but like Tony Williams, Jack DeJohnette, Joe Chambers, and someone like Mel Lewis, even though he's more of a traditional sounding drummer, he uses more of a modern approach to comping sometimes. And this kind of brings me to another point that it doesn't have to be either or. You don't have to be an either or kind of drummer. This day and age, it would behoove you to be both, to be able to do both, right? You listen to early Roy Haynes, or you listen to early Elvin Jones, and they were playing solid time, not really breaking up the ride cymbal. Then you hear them evolve, and they started opening up a lot more. But they can do that, right? This day and age, you'll just work a lot more if you can do both. A lot of the modern music that you hear now, it thrives off of that more of a modern approach to comping. So you definitely want to get that under your belt. But then there's other times when you might play with people who play more traditional, right? And if you approach it with the same mindset as you approach a more modern sounding gig, you're going to sound out of place. It's not going to work, okay? So you want to be able to do both, and you got to recognize when what is called for, when it's best to use this approach or that approach. Even within one song, you might start up with more of a traditional approach, and then it kind of opens up and morphs into more of a modern thing. So as long as you have those skills, you can kind of go anywhere you want. All right, so that is the lesson, traditional versus modern comping for drums. And again, I want to stress the importance of learning more of the traditional approach first and working on your independence, getting really comfortable with that before progressing to more of a modern approach, okay? I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and until the next time, practice hard, but practice smart. Take care. Bye-bye.